Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Robbie Rowland, and you're listening to The Robbie Rowe Show.
May I have your attention, please?
Give me a heater.
Now listening to Clear the Mechanism.
The Robbie Rowe Show.
The Robbie Rowe Show.
What is up, guys? It's your boy, Robbie Rowland. Appreciate you all for tuning in to this little mini episode with Dr. Josh Heenan and myself. Per popular request, honestly, is hey, you know, you're spending so much dang time with the guy. Why not put him on another podcast? So what I did, pretty cool story too, is I went on Amazon and I bought one of these. It's like little portable recorders, Zoom H1N. They are not a paid affiliate of this show. Sorry about it, but pretty cool that I can just, you know, take my podcast portable now. I did with DJ Edwards and I did with Josh, and I'm hoping Josh and I because we're going to spend some more time together in the next months, and I'm hoping we can do just a lot of these. Man, this guy's got so much valuable info to share with you guys. I mean, obviously, I'm sure a lot of my listeners are followers of his on Instagram as well, and you already know that the guy's freaking intelligent. So definitely would love to get him on the show as much as possible. I'm going to do a little segment. I'm not going to count this as like a specific episode on my podcast. I'm just going to do like a little Josh and Rob segment. So we'll see how many of those we can tackle. So Josh and I today, on my birthday, you're welcome, we just tackle kind of the minute details of my grade 2 lat surgery. I mean, not surgery, but injury. Most of you know that follow me. I mean, hopefully you all know, you pay attention, that I got injured July, grade 2 lat strain, came out on the MRI, took 4 weeks, did what the team told me to do, rested, and then started a traditional physical therapy program. And basically, long story short, we're not seeing much progress on the lat. Still having pain, still having difficulty, have yet to touch a ball. I mean, just sitting here right now, flexing, you know, my lat, it's painful. You know, and so many months later, it basically shouldn't be happening. So I moved out to Colorado. I think most of you noticed that, and just been working with Josh ever since. So we definitely delve into kind of what he sees from his side as a doctor of integrative medicine. Definitely butchered that. Integrative medicine. Doctor of integrative medicine. He says it in the show anyways. I mean, anytime I go over like 2 syllables, it's like I can't pronounce it. But yeah, okay, so that's basically the highlight of the show. At this time, I'd like to thank a sponsor of this show is Aura Ring. You guys have probably noticed on my Instagram story, I'm posting a lot more about this Aura Ring and kind of what it actually shows me, all this data that it's giving me. It's literally a ring. I'm wearing it on my middle finger right now. I transition from middle to index, and it basically tracks like your whole day and most of all your sleep. A lot of guys wear it specifically to determine, you know, what their sleep is. What I love about the ring and what the app shows you is it just gives you a super detailed look at not only your activity from the previous day, but your sleep. And it piles all that information up, and it basically gives you a score for your readiness for that next day. And I think the coolest thing for me is I wake up, I sync all of that stuff together, and I basically see like, oh man, I can really hammer the weights today. You know, I can go really hard because I've checked all the boxes as far as my recovery goes, and my sleep was good, and you know, all of that stuff. So as you guys have seen on my Instagram, you know, I mean, it's just cool data. I'm such a data guy, so it's cool to see. What I can do for you guys is I can save you $50 if you're interested in purchasing a ring. Go to auraring.com and then enter code RobbieRowe12. That's ROBBYROW12 at checkout. Save you $50. Also, a little shameless plug. Josh is going to talk about his remote training in this episode just briefly, and it's something that I think anyone who takes their career seriously definitely needs to at least explore the idea of doing that. and I've said this on multiple Instagram posts, is like, what separates Josh, Dr. Heenan, and Advanced Therapy Performance from the rest of the pack, man, is it's not this cookie cutter training program, like, hey, here's a packet. These are quote unquote good exercises to do. These will get you strong. It's stuff that it's hammering out your deficiencies. It's exercises that are going to benefit you in your specific goal. Just the attention to detail that Josh puts into each and everyone's program is just, it's incredible. And I've just been so lucky just to honestly just surround myself with the guy and just accumulate all of this information that he freely gives. With that being said, what I can do for you is I can save you $100 off the initiation fee if you decide that remote training with Josh and Advanced Therapy Performance is something that you're interested in. I can save you $100 off the initiation fee, and the monthly fee is only $50 to do remote training. So it's pretty crazy, man. What they do is they once you sign up, they go through an assessment, right? They screen you. I did the same thing. They screen you, you video your screening. And just by that, Josh and his team can determine what you need to work on, what you need to hammer out, what's going to make you a better athlete moving forward. And then they design a program specifically built for you and your goals. And, that's just, it's great. But, like I said, I can save you $100. What you should do is you should direct message me on Instagram. Say, hey, Rob, I'm interested in working with Heenan through remote training. Let me get that link and let me get that code to save $100 off your initiation fee. Would love to do that for you guys. So definitely check that out if you're interested in optimizing your athletic career. All right, guys. Well, without further ado, sorry for the long introduction, but without further ado, let's get to Josh and I's conversation on my birthday about my grade 2 lat strain. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. See you.
Okay. We're live. I try not to get the beard in the mic. Okay, I'm with Josh Heenan, Dr. Heenan on Instagram. You guys know him. You've passed me in Instagram followers, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, won't happen much longer.
I've hit a stall, mate, man. I don't know. I'm getting a lot of people unfollowing me, I think.
You're good looking, and it's your birthday.
It's my birthday, guys. Yeah, make sure when you listen to this, say happy belated to me. So what we're doing here, we're going to do like a 10 to maybe 15, 20 minute little mini episode. I get a lot of questions as far as like what Josh and I are working on out here, why'd I move out here, what's going on with my injury, all that stuff. So might as well get the guy in to explain and kind of just elaborate on literally everything we're tackling. So obviously you and I were in touch multiple months ago when I was healthy, just briefly, and then the injury occurred, and I think you reached out to me kind of just wanting to get the layout of the land, and then just conversations progressed, and then I wound up taking a visit out here. 2 weeks later, I think I moved out here.
Yep.
And so in your point of view, what were kind of the first things, and we're talking about my lat injury. Yep. The first things that you saw in regards to why this thing was a grade 2 lat strain? So
I remember in our first intake, the first thing we always look at, so we're looking at it mainly from like a strength and conditioning standpoint, and we always tease out our orthopedics first. So the first thing I saw was that you passively on the table, we could move you around and you didn't really have any lat pain. So that was a big indicator to me that there's a lot going on that we could probably help with. Right. And then we also had confirmation from your countless MRIs that said that you did not have any more lat strain, lat tear, and that everything had been healed.
Yeah, because this was like 3-4 months after the injury occurred.
I think about 3.5 months.
I moved out here, middle of October?
Late
October? October 25th.
I think earlier than
October 25th.
I think September 25th.
Nope, it was October. I just looked at the pictures the other day.
Okay.
October 25th, I moved out here. The injury occurred July 16th.
Okay.
So yeah, some time has passed. At this point, the MRIs were saying that it was good structurally, it was fine, and then obviously my pain level was still probably like a 4 or a 5.
Yeah.
And that's not even pulling or doing anything that would aggravate a lat big time.
Right, and I think a good description would be, when you go to grab like something out of like a hanger, like a hanger out of your closet to grab something, you would get that lat pull, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah, like grabbing like a hanger to like grab.
Your analogies, man.
No, I'm just trying to visualize it for other people to understand that when you do a pull like a lat pull down,
the way I would say is like setting that scap, almost that right side of that scap,
right,
is like, I mean, I'm sitting here right now doing it, and it's like, there it is.
So the first thing you saw was that when we put you on the table, moved your arm around, you didn't have any pain. Mm-hmm. But the second that you gave any active pull, you did. Mm-hmm. We did find the Robbie Rowe reset at the moment, which was that position where we were able to get you to brace, and all of a sudden that pain went away.
Yeah, held that for about a week.
Yep, and then. Yeah, the consistency was not there. So, but we knew it was a trunk stability thing, and that's the first thing that we noticed. You had already gone through your conservative rehab, your normal, traditional physical therapy, and you didn't get the results you were looking for.
Right. And that's battling through pain.
Right, and that's battling through pain. So, once you came out here, the next thing, and once you moved out here, the next thing we looked at was, all right, let's break it down and try to figure out what fundamental patterns you have and don't, which has been a lot of guess and check, and that's what's challenging, is because a lot of things for you are not linear. They don't, some days they're painful, some days they're not, and now I'm at the point of seeing the big picture of how is this all laying into one another. We did take a road trip to see my buddy Connor, who's a PRI expert and really has another good handle of another perspective of how we can get you better. He had an interesting perspective and definitely aligned with what we were trying to attack, but he was more into the breathing of it, which is great.
Well, I wasn't breathing correctly.
Well, you weren't, and it's a piece of it. Yeah. It's not the final piece. Right. So, there's a lot of moving parts with that, and now we're just trying to figure out how we can get a better sensory input to your brain to allow you to move better. And we know that there's certain patterns that you move really well through. For instance, when we put you into a bird dog row or a push-up, with your left arm rowing or your left hand stabilizing for a push-up, you do really well. You don't really have any issues. When we immediately get that right side to try to row or to stabilize in a certain way, it just immediately flares up. We did have, the other day, we did have that nice little breakthrough where we did get you to row relatively pain-free. It was like a 0 or 1 back and forth with the bird dog row.
And that's just more emphasis on a protraction on the left side. So can we go into a little bit more detail as far as because I know a popular thing was how did you determine, and it was early that you determined this, was trunk stability. Like we saw it at an early stage of our relationship together, that when I did get in that Robbie Rowe reset and I was stabilizing my trunk and my core, all that stuff, then my lat pain went away. So it's basically like a dysfunction of my lat wanting to take over in certain positions, my brain recognizing that, and then, I mean, from your point of view, how did you know that what was happening?
Well, the Robbie Rowe reset, which there's plenty of videos online now that people can go and check out.
Core exercise.
Core exercise. Yep. Hey, listen, it is a trunk stability exercise. So basically, that before we did the Robbie Rowe reset, all I did was put you on your back, and I grabbed your arm, and I put you in basically all of your fundamental movements: flexion, extension, internal, external rotation, pronation, supination of the shoulder. And you had no pain.
No pain, right?
Zero pain.
Right.
And
I wasn't fighting you. I was just, it was passive.
You were, exactly. And passive means we're taking the muscles out of the equation.
Sure.
When we start to go active and you pull, you immediately had pain. So I then had you brace. And we gave you the Robbie Rowe reset to brace, which was, we had to tinker with and figure out what positions are going to most help influence you. Mm-hmm. Where we're going now is there's 3 components in my mind that all lead up to really the same thing, which is how does your brain perceive where you are in time and space? I had a really good conversation with my right-hand man, Brian, in our Stanford office the other day, and we were talking about how you have, when we do a Turkish get-up, if you roll to your right side, your affected side, you immediately get that 4, 5, 6 out of...
Well, that is like a 7. That's probably one of the ones, besides doing a straight pull-up, what I'd say was the most pain.
So this is what's really interesting, and why we're utilizing so many people to try to put these pieces together. When you roll to that right side, you get that significant pain, knifing sharp, high lat pain. But when we put you into a push-up position and have you do a rotation, you're just weak.
Right.
So if we get you into a right, like a push-up position where you rotate to the left, so you're basically your right hand's on the ground, straight arm side plank, you have no pain.
Right. Just very weak. Drastically more than the left side.
So that's what Brian and I talked about yesterday for about 45 minutes. And I'm like, what is the difference between a right side plank and a right hand supported push-up side plank?
Right.
And the difference in his mind is the sensory input that you get from your hand. So
you're saying the brain is absorbing different inputs?
Yes.
Like different.
Yeah. So when you have your hand on the ground,
right.
There's a couple other pieces that lead into it, but when you have your hand on the ground, it gives you better proprioception of spatial awareness of what's going on in the world, and your brain says, hey, we can stabilize with this, we got it.
Right.
We put you on the power plate, and for those that don't know what the power plate is, it's a vibrating, shaking plate that you stand on. Remember the first time we put you on the power plate, all we did was I had you stand and do a lat pull down basically against yourself and set your scap, and you were at either a 1 or a 0.
Right. Yeah.
And your environment changed, so we're putting you into a unstable environment where we're shaking you, but we're challenging your trunk stability, we're challenging the inputs that go into your feet, and then your brain is taking that information in a little bit differently, and it gives you a better spatial awareness of what's really going on.
So how does that give you a better spatial awareness if you're constantly shaking?
So imagine if you had 50 friends coming up to you and tapping you in different spots in your body the whole time.
With your eyes closed.
With your eyes closed.
Yeah.
You're going to have really good spatial awareness.
Right.
It's one of the reasons.
I got you.
It's one of the reasons why I think not for the general population of baseball, but in general,
right.
People feel really good when they get out of water. Right, so people go for a swim and they have like this endorphin release, and and they don't even need. And so, but think about water. What does water do? Water is a huge sensory input. And it's what I believe a piece of the acupuncture is. It's like it gives you sensory input in areas that you're needling that tell your brain, hey, don't forget that we're here.
Yeah.
And it's the same idea of like getting good soft tissue work. It's like someone might work on something that your body doesn't have as much sensory awareness to. It's in good movement. With like challenging end range of motion, FRC principles, end range motion, they fall in line with one another so that you're able to challenge that new range and say to your brain, hey, don't forget that we have this over here, and now we have another piece of the puzzle to put together.
So how much is it how much like percentage does it play when we're talking about like just the brain understanding like what you do and don't have? Because my brain's telling me that my lat wants to take over in almost any rigorous activity right now. Mm-hmm. So
can you restate the question?
So like I'm just asking, like, I guess why? Like, what would you? Is it more of a I've been doing it for so long that my compensation has just taken over to where my brain just says that's the normal movement for myself?
Yep.
That's literally what it is my brain just inputting?
There's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah.
And this is why I have a doctorate in integrative medicine, which is not an MD. So I'm not a licensed medical doctor.
Right.
And when we get cases like this, it's an immediate refer out, check with your MD, make sure you've gone to traditional therapy, make sure you've done all the medical things, because this is where trainers get in trouble, because it could be a neurological disease, a cancer, a something that is outside the scope, outside the scope of a trainer. And this is why we refer out immediately, because we're like, hey, we need another hand in the pot to make sure that we're not missing something, because that's a disservice to our athletes, and God forbid it is something significant, like you need to have that checked out. It could have been the movements that you've been doing your whole career.
Yeah.
It could be just the natural input. It could be the fact that maybe you need glasses. It could be the fact that maybe your footwear is not optimal, that gives you the correct input that your brain is absorbing. It could be the fact that maybe maybe there's a medication that you need to help your brain function at a level that maybe maybe there's certain pieces of your brain that just don't naturally function the way they're supposed to and coordinate that neurological like motor patterning that you can understand. There's a lot of pieces to it, but that was the interesting piece that Brian brought into it, is like when you get more sensory input, you do really well. When in terms of like that side plank with that push-up position, we know with the force plate you get that as well. And there's other positions that really challenge you that you do really well in. A reverse bear crawl, as much as we're working on improving your pattern, you get a lot of sensory input. And if you think about a little baby that's crawling around, they're in a really sensory, a high sensory input environment. By crawling and having a lot of contact points in the ground. You do really well with that, right? So,
thanks for telling me that my bear crawl is getting better.
They are getting better.
They're so much better. I looked at a video of
significantly
when
better.
I was back home, and I was looking at that, and I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just compared to the one that...
Absolutely.
So I want to get into, and we'll run out of time, but the last thing I want to get into is like the importance of basically like doing your work correctly and efficiently, because I think my following knows, people that listen to the podcast knows that like I'm always a hard worker. I challenge myself with trying to be the hardest worker on the team, in the room, but it goes beyond that, because I mean, you're seeing it firsthand with me. I'm seeing it firsthand is like I've put in the work, put in the time. There's just a lot of things, exercise related, specific movement related, that maybe I didn't pay so much attention to, like the correct moving parts in that specific movement. So therefore I've compensated and, in the long run haven't done correctly. Right. And now I'm paying the price. So now you and I's relationship is like, we need to start from ground zero. Right. From square one. And like, we need to establish these correct moving patterns. And so like, basically just go on, elaborate on why, like, especially in your realm, we look for like just proper movements.
Well, I think you beat yourself up a lot over like, oh, I haven't been doing this right for 8 years. And I don't think that's the case. And I think the people that see you online and see your work and your work ethic, a lot of people don't understand how big and strong you are. You're a big human being.
Are you saying this because it's my birthday?
No, I'm not saying this because it's your birthday. If it wasn't your birthday, I would say it. Maybe I wouldn't say it as nicely.
Right,
but
right. You're decently strong.
Yeah, you're relatively strong. I mean, you're a big, strong athlete. You're the 1% of the 1%. You take really good care of yourself, and most importantly to yourself, you really pride yourself on doing the right things.
Sure.
This is... To make it simple, it comes back to like the 90-mile-an-hour formula. I don't think the 90-mile-an-hour formula is the end-all, be-all in terms of everything of training. But I do know it works. And why does it work? Because we put you in the right positions for what you're trying to accomplish. When someone comes in, be it a 13, 15, or 35-year-old, and they have really poor hip mobility, and they want to squat.
Right.
It doesn't mean they shouldn't squat. But if we can't get them in the right positions, they're going to be jamming up their femoral head into that socket. They're going to be creating all of these dysfunctions or creating other issues on top of their lack of mobility, which in turn creates bigger, longer-term issues. So that's why we screen people out at first to try to figure out what's going to be best for you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, DJ and I we really elaborated on that yesterday too. It was like the importance of like seeing an athlete, understanding like, okay, he doesn't do this well, it doesn't do that well. Right. Because like for me, you took away squatting from me. Right. And like that was the first thing in our relationship, and I was like, this guy sucks, dude. Yeah. Like one of the funner things that I enjoy in life was squatting and deadlifting. Obviously, deadlifting taken out of the picture at an early stage just because of the lat pain. Right. But squatting was like the one thing. And like, I mean, when I sent you my screen, it was like, okay, squatting for this individual is going to do more harm than good. Right.
At this very moment. And that doesn't mean, and here's the thing. Most people see the formula and they say, oh, he doesn't want to squat, or he doesn't squat people. We love squatting people. Sure. The issue is a large portion of the population is not going to squat well, so we need to screen them. And the other portion, they got to realize that their goal is to run fast, throw the ball hard, and swing with power.
Right.
That is a split stance issue. That is not a squatting issue. So we're trying to develop the athlete for their needs. And are we doing things for you that are trying to improve your squat? Of course.
Yeah.
Those things are like your FRC hip stuff. Like you're doing a lot of individual hip things, and your split stance work can help bring out the better mobility that's going to help you squat better.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we got to keep the goal. And what's the goal for Robbie Rowe? The goal is to, 1, get you pain-free and healthy, and then 2, have you perform at the highest level you possibly can.
Right. But that's what, like, a lot of people, I mean, going back to the formula, like, I mean, the reason you get a lot of heat because everyone's like, oh, you just need to do this and then you throw hard.
Yeah.
But, like,
That's all you need to do, and throw hard.
Yeah. I mean, why overcomplicate anything?
Right. Exactly.
We'll get into that another time as far as like the formula talk and everything. Just to round out this show is like, where do you see us like moving forward as far as like, obviously we're at this point we're checking off all these different boxes and we're doing all the right things.
Yep.
As far as like moving forward, we've talked in the past as far as like our vision for what we're probably going to do, and for me personally, it's going to get a second opinion on the lat. Maybe surgery's an option.
Yep.
Maybe it's not. But moving forward, like what do you see as far as like the next thing?
I think we're creating opportunities every day that we train, windows of opportunity to find pain-free movements and give you better sensory input. They may be little. They may be very, very small incrementally, but those are important windows for us to understand how your brain is absorbing information and how we can put that into play into the grand scheme of it. We need to keep hammering away those little points.
Yeah.
And as we've talked about, timelines are difficult with certain cases, and yours is by far the most difficult case and most challenging case that I've had in the last 10 years.
We got it on record now.
We got it on record this time. So if you have a more complicated case, send it my way, because that'll
you won't find one.
Yeah.
I think it, for me too, it's understanding big picture. It's understanding the small victories, and I didn't do that from an early stage, right?
Right. It was challenging.
Because I mean, at the same time, you get a lot of like false, like, oh yeah, typical grade 2 lat injuries are 2 months, and then you'll be back throwing. Or
right.
When I went and saw my first. When I went and did my second MRI in Texas, and this is no disrespect to the Texas Rangers organization or anything, but structurally on an MRI, it was like, oh, you're healing 2 weeks, do this exercise, do these exercises, then you start a throwing program. And I think just that input in my brain was like expectations got to a degree where they shouldn't have been.
Right.
And then I come here. And it's like I said, it's for me to understand like those small victories. Like the other day, we did a bird dog row that was minimal pain, and it's like that's a freaking huge win in the grand scheme of things. Huge. And that's something early on that I didn't do because like you saw it, my energy levels were low. Like I just wasn't responding well.
Yep.
As an athlete, as a competitor.
Right.
I made a post about this yesterday. It's like you wanna compete, dude. So like when you do get hurt, it's like, okay, well, what's my outlet now to do that?
And I think that's the challenge, in the baseball world. The majority, I would say the largest chunk of the population of the baseball world that we get are guys that need a fire lit under their butt.
Sure.
And 2 to 5% of them are guys that you have to pull the reins back on, and you're obviously in that 2 to 5%. And I think us pulling the reins back and being like, hey, listen, we need to take these exercises out, and you're like, oh my god, these exercises make me feel great. And like, yeah, but like they're not getting us closer to the goal of being pain-free. Emotionally, there's a huge level of discomfort and frustration, and then all of a sudden now instead of feeling like this healthy, productive athlete, you feel like this injured patient. And I never want our guys to feel like an injured patient, but also I can't just stroke your ego and say, hey, go and squat until you can't feel your legs anymore, because that's not going to help you get where you need to be. Right,
and that's, I mean, the grand scheme of things, you mentioned it earlier, is like, what is your goal, man? My goal is to be a Major League Baseball pitcher.
Right.
And it's not to be, at least in this moment, it's not to be like an Olympic lifter, it's not to be the best exerciser, it's not to be the best sprinter, it's not to be the best basketball player. Like, I think I get asked a lot of questions on Instagram. It's like, hey, like, do you have any advice? I just got hurt. I just had Tommy John. Like, what's your advice? And it's like, yeah, you're going to be doing exercises that are so monotonous and you hate, and you saw it firsthand with me. Like, I showed up some days and I was just dead. Like, I was like, I don't want to do these again.
Yep.
But I think if you constantly challenge your mindset, it's like, okay, dude, if I can focus on these quote unquote stupid exercises to get to my end goal of being a big leaguer, then that's what I have to do. Those are the sacrifices that you have to make.
And it's difficult out there to sift through the really good strength coaches, pitching coaches, therapists, doctors that understand the big picture compared to the ones that don't. But I will say that, you know, we have a lot of people that will go and see our therapists and strength coaches for one visit, get an evaluation, get a screen. We say, hey, listen, you're really good for this, this, and this. You need to work on these things. And by the way, your strengths are here. Just keep highlighting those strengths. And that information alone, it does you wonders in terms of figuring out where you are. We know that if you're in pain, we're giving your brain signals that say, hey, stupid, you got to stop this right now.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating and it hurts. But at the same time, we're trying to remap that brain.
It goes back to the floppy disk analogy.
Exactly.
That is like, I think once you hit that, I was like, all right, this guy's all right.
All right. Should I give them the floppy disk analogy?
I mean, it's up to you.
All right.
We're 22 minutes in.
We'll finish with that. So basically, my floppiness analogy is that for those that remember what a floppy disk is,
which no one does,
which no one listening is going to, but we used to have to put floppy disks into the computer to basically use different programs in different games. So if you want to play a certain game, you put a floppy disk in. It's basically like putting a cartridge into a video game set. Now, the floppy disk would be able to save information. And if we have thousands and thousands of floppy disks in our brain, that's how we're going to figure out our movement patterns. So if you have really good throwing mechanics and you have real good arm swing or whatever, you're going to have that floppy disk that's going to be in there. But if you have an arm path that is not optimal, you're going to still be using that floppy disk. So what we need to do is take that floppy disk out and repattern it or reformat it and make sure it's in a good setting so that you actually can take that information in, and we need to reinsert that to the brain until it becomes a part of you.
Right. I mean, that's the definition of what I was doing too within my rehab was that, you know, you and I programmed for a month, right? You had set me a program for a month, and I wasn't completely upfront with you as far as like where my pain levels were. I just thought I was supposed to do it, you know. Right. And every day, every exercise that I did, there was pain level, you know, to that. Right. And that's basically saying that like my body movements, the way my body moves in certain exercises was my lat wanting to take over. Yep. And then once it did that, it was like, oh, there's pain. Right. You know, and I just kind of fought through it. So I was still utilizing those bad floppy disks without frickin' destroying it. So then when I came out here, it was like, look, again, starting from frickin' the ground zero about the way your body moves. We need to establish like correct movements and make a high importance of those.
You're either moving better or worse. And with an athletic career, as you know, you've had a very long, in the grand scheme of things, you've had a very long professional career, and we're going to make sure that you have a much longer professional career. Yeah. But at the same time, everybody's athletic careers is very short, and the majority of people that are listening to this are probably going to be, you know, high school athletes and then be done. Right. And so you get 4 years of relatively high competitive sport, and if you're really lucky, you get another 4 years of playing college, and if you're really, really lucky, you may get a year, 2, 5, post that. So your career is really short. If you're not getting more efficient every single movement, you're actually moving in the wrong direction. Yeah. And we need to keep just hammering away. Yeah. And you're doing great.
Yeah, no doubt. So I want to end the show by I know exactly what's going to happen. And people are going to listen to this. They're going to go into your DMs. They're going to go into my DMs like, hey, how can I start being more efficient or whatever? Do you mind doing a little shameless plug to your remote training?
Yeah, so my remote training is located at the Advanced Therapy Performance website. You click 90 mile an hour formula. All that information is there. You can sign up there. If you have a legitimate case that you're looking for, like remote consulting or something, shoot me an email. DMs are flooded. Can't always stay on top of them. Email is a lot more efficient. I know Robbie does a better job at the DMs than I do and responding.
I just have more time.
Yeah, maybe at this moment, but
I'm not sticking needles in people.
Yeah, exactly. Or going to class and working and trying to create a baby there, or created a baby.
Yeah, so, you've already created.
Yeah, exactly. He's on his way. But to be honest, I think the majority of people if you go through and look through Robbie's page and look at his training and look at his information and then look at mine as well and comment on the posts, that's really easy for us to get back to in terms of like engaging in a public forum, because most of the questions are already answered for the general population.
Yeah, what did you say? Like 90% of your DMs are like, "Hey, I made a post about this. Go check it out."
Yes,
hey,
exactly.
This is on my story.
Exactly.
Highlight, go check it out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And if people want the answers, they'll find them in the page, and if they don't, then
I want to. So my shameless plug is, if you're interested in doing the remote training, obviously I'm very vocal about it, but shoot me a DM. I respond to DMs. I'm like my counterpart here. Shoot me a DM. Let me know if you're interested. I'll save you $100. Just let me know. All right, Josh, we're done here. Let's go. Let's go
get a lift.
All right, appreciate you, dude.
You too.
All right, guys, that's another episode of The Robbie Rowe Show. Do me a favor, if you liked the episode, or even if you didn't like it, go ahead and leave me a review on whatever platform you're listening to. Not only does it help me out with popularity on my show, but it also helps me out as a host of this podcast. Sometimes I don't know if I'm getting better or if I'm getting worse, and I need y'all's opinion. So go ahead and leave a review and let me know what you thought. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time, Robbie Rowland, The Robbie Rowe Show. Your boy's out. Later.
Thank you.